happening, everybody? Live from New York. It's the Wired Down Show. Special guest, all the way from New York. I got to turn and flip this whole script around. We have Bean and Marvin, Drastic Car Club, New York. New York is here. They just barely got out of LAX, cruised on down here. They're seated right next to me, and they're going to tell us about the lowriding culture in New York. So who wants to introduce themselves to the lowriding public? Who wants to go first? The painter. Go ahead.
Marvin Shivnarine, Drastic Auto Club, New York.
My name is Kenneth Joseph. Everybody calls me Bean or Drastic Bean. I'm the co-founder of Drastic. Marvin is my president.
There you go, everybody.
Yeah.
So before we get going anywhere and everybody's kind of like in shock out there, I think that people out there believe that lowriders do exist in Japan. You know, we hear the worldwide and all that. Okay, worldwide. What about New York? That's a big question mark. Lowriders in New York? Do you guys get that? Because you're sort of up there northeast, way up at the top by Canada, really on the outside kind of looking in. You have a badass Cadillac, I might tell you. I didn't want to tell you that so much in front of this guy, but
Thank you.
to have a lowrider car club out there, how do you stay alive? How do you stay recognized? How do you gain respect when you're a caddy corner from the west side way up at the top? How do you guys do it?
Sheesh, man. It's we're in our 31st year now, 31 years since 94. And it hasn't been easy. It definitely hasn't been easy. The culture, the lowrider culture isn't strong in New York, especially in the early 90s. It was just the love of lowriders for us. When me and Bean started, we had nothing much but a lowrider magazine and trying to understand the articles. We didn't know what cylinders were. We didn't understand the process. Me coming from an art background, I've always been attracted to the art of lowriders. They're the baddest cars you're ever going to find. You know, it's lowriders when it comes to art and creativity. So I've always been drawn to that. And I think we started making trips to the West Coast just to come from Lowrider Magazine. We'd see an article, we'd read maybe 3 cars. Oh, this was done by the same shop. Because in Lowrider Magazine back then, they had the source at the end. And we would pick up the phone and make calls, you know, and make contacts and say, hey, we would look at each other and be like, yeah, you think we could make this flight? And we would come all the way out from New York and meet some West Coast guys and start understanding more and more to, you know, how we would build our cars.
I always start off with basic questions. They almost become cookie cutter. It's your first lowrider, your first influence. How did you guys get involved in that, being from New York? What was your first influence or car?
So we're gonna go back to early 90s. Lowriders was unheard of. I wasn't into lowriders, but I was into cars. Marvin's cousin, Kenny, was a Ford Mustang guy. So that was the introduction into cars, muscle cars. And then one day I'm just hanging out at a convenience store. I picked up Mini Truck magazine. So now we're looking at lower trucks. I bring the magazine to Marv. Hey, look at these guys from the West Coast. Mini trucks laid out on the floor. A month later, I go back to the same convenience store. I see Lowrider magazine. It was probably 1990. It was a brown 60 for maybe Brown Persuasion. I kind of remember it. I picked it up. We're reading it. What are pumps and dumps? So now those are the 2 Bibles I had in my book bag going to school. It's like early 90s. Now, for us, we seen them in the magazine, but we didn't see them live. So one day we're walking down the avenue. Me and Marv, we just hanging out late night. We see 2 cars coming down the block just on the floor. We just see headlights just bouncing up and down. So we was frozen. 2 young guys come out. For us in the East Coast, we didn't have Impalas. These guys came out in Toyota Celicas. No springs, just slammed to the floor. We were just shocked. We just couldn't believe what we saw. We introduced ourselves. They introduced themselves. These kids were probably like 18, 19, a guy by the name of Kazma. who later on became a member. His other friend was named PS, because on the top of his car it said plain and simple. These are 17-year-old kids, no springs, riding on bump stops on the avenue. We put two and two together, the magazine and what we seen visually. From then on, I every month started buying the magazine. We started going to shows in New York. We see maybe one lowrider, two lowriders. Now,
Mostly trucks.
mostly mini
But
trucks.
back then, when you were, how did you get the magazine to begin with?
At a convenience store near my job.
Or random like subway stops.
That would just be out there.
Yeah,
They would
like
load
where they
up those
sell
trucks at
newspapers and stuff.
350,000 magazines.
He'll give
About
me,
50
he might call me.
trucks across the country back then.
He might call me like, hey, the store over in, on West 4th Street on this has the magazine.
Yeah.
I'd make my way down there to the city, wherever, and get that magazine.
So
You couldn't find it everywhere.
What world is this? I know, going through all the pages. What? I would look at the car, the style, and then I try and find out where's that at. And you could see it was there. It was kind of like already everywhere.
So for us, we come from Queens, New York. So in Queens, they had a drag strip called the Conduit, well, mostly dragsters.
And Flatlands.
In Flatlands, Brooklyn had a place called Fountain Avenue. The Bronx had Hunts Point. So every weekend we would pick a destination. When we would pick a destination, we may see one or two lowriders or pickup trucks or Toyota Corollas slammed to the floor. But still, it wasn't a big lowrider community.
No, it wasn't at that time either, because I remember I used to leave and park up before all the cars would come and do my homework, sitting there waiting for all the cars to start lining up and waiting, because they were all about racing then, but when those cool cars would come through, it was all worth it, to sit there for an hour and a half to just see, oh damn, that's that car. It was amazing. And let me bring it back to when you asked us about like our first cars and stuff. For us, it's whatever we had. Whatever car we had became our lowrider. It became what we went to school with, what we went to the grocery with, what we went to the, work. That's all we had, so we made it into a lowrider. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I have to buy a 64 Impala. It's like, oh no, I got my 83 Thunderbird. We're slamming it, and this is what we're gonna do. I felt like almost at the very beginning in the 90s, all of our guys, it's whatever we had, we were building. If it was Vic's Jeep Wrangler, or if it was Steve's Eddie Bauer, Explorer, these off vehicles that probably weren't being built out here, but these are the cars that we had. So that's how we were building it. And it kind of built the name for us in the streets too, because no matter what we had, we were slamming it, we were juicing it. It was a wild time.
You're juicing Jeeps?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, as long as
Whatever it
it's
was.
low. Everything looks good once it's lower, though. Almost everything, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about gremlins and other stuff like that, or pinos, but
Yeah.
that's cool. That you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Don't why
Exactly.
wait? So you
Correct.
didn't have to go to the magazine or get when's the first true lowrider you saw 520s wired down, when you finally saw one, not a picture, finally just walked up on one and saw one?
When we went to the
Oh, Miami?
the Miami Lowrider
Miami
Show,
Lowrider
Yeah.
91, 92,
There are a lot of big wheel cars out there too, though. But there were some badass lowriders.
and this was early 90s.
This
Yeah.
is when we went down and we met Mario and them.
Mario Albert.
Yeah, the Diablos.
Yeah, yeah.
We were always in touch with them through phone, and they were coming to Miami. I'm not sure if it was Miami or
See, they go
Tampa.
back a long, long ways, don't they?
Yeah.
That's what we do.
So
They got
th-
really popular the last 15, 20 years, but they including Dad, man.
this was like Suicide Revenge.
Yeah,
days,
yeah, all of that.
I
I don't think they get enough credit yet for all of that stuff. See, that's good you mentioned them.
because
When we talk history, they were there.
they were the reason that we went down, because that was their closest coming to us on the East Coast,
Mhm.
even though Florida's 24 hours away from us. We did the drive.
But you got to tell them what we drove.
We drove my Juice Thunderbird,
Yeah.
no AC, no reclining seats,
24 hours.
24 hours straight down,
It
just
was
me,
fully
man.
loaded. It was
Lo-
juiced, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's all that matters.
Leaking oil out the engine, just checking it all the time. And I remember when we hit Florida, we passed that Florida state line. We was getting down. It was Miami, because we seen a vehicle. I think it was a truck or a car, something with hydraulics. I just started hitting those switches, man. We blew that line, boom. It was such a great time. We were driving so low, we were knocking reflectors off the floor. And when we blew the line, we exited and we found a hydraulic hose place within a few miles. Luckily,
And that's before,
we got to,
and that's before we started the club.
yeah.
See, nothing will ever replace going back to the first time, even compared to where you guys are at now, 30 something years, a car club in New York, your cars, the ones you paint, everything you guys have done. You go back there and you guys are like innocent. And there is nothing like that first time. You appreciate it forever. You can never replace that.
It was always Marvin and I. Marvin had the first car, got it juiced up, so I was always the passenger guy, made sure everything was okay. If Marvin didn't want to drive, I drove, and he would pick me up from work in the lowrider. We just grab something to eat and just go to the boulevard, and it was just us. And one day Marvin was like, I want to start a club. And I was like, I'm with you, let's do it. But we couldn't come up with a name. So we still had landline phones.
Right. Yeah.
So what, 93, Marvin calls me. I'm at home. He's at home in Long Island. And he said, I found the name. So I said, what is it? He said, Drastic. I said, right away, that's it.
How did you come up with a name like Drastic? Were you reading the sports page and the Yankees weren't doing
No,
I think
no,
they were.
it was. See, me and Bean, okay. I think we remember things slightly differently at this point,
good? Yeah.
right? Because I know originally, the early '90s, I tried to start a club called Hitting Hard
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of our friends that we go to Fountain Avenue and to those races with, but they didn't have the same level of lowriders. They're car guys, but they weren't. They wanted to work on engines and just race, and it was a different love of cars. So it didn't quite work out because it was just friends. We were all great friends, but we didn't have the same love for lowriders. And kind of what happened was we're in New York. There was no shows in New York, nothing. The closest you're going to get is a show in maybe Jersey, and it would be a truck show.
Right.
Or we'd have to go to Connecticut, Pennsylvania, down south. But we would go to these shows, and then we'd run it. Oh, Abe, yeah, you're from Brooklyn. Oh yeah, yeah. Or we'll meet another John. You're from Jersey. Oh yeah. Now we go to another show, another state. We run into the same guys. After a while, we started going, oh, what's the next show? And then we start kind of like getting each other's information. Oh, let's meet up for the next show. Let's do it. Now we started like getting a group of guys that love the same thing, even though we don't have a history with each other. We all knew that we loved lowriders because we were all doing these trips by ourselves. We didn't need help, right? We just did it because we loved to do it. And that's what started the core of the club. And then finally, we decided, hey, we should start a club. Now, the name, we wanted to stay away from, first of all, our two favorite clubs is Elite and Lifestyle. There's so many things from each club that we respect. And I believe that's what molded our club. We didn't want a name that was 2 or 3 words. We wanted one single word: lifestyle, elite,
Individuals,
individuals,
majestic.
We wanted one word. We didn't want to fall into a mini trucking path of like down to earth, or we didn't want a sentence. We wanted one word. So we just kept trying to think of it. I was at Bean's house and I fell asleep. I was sitting in the basement and we were just like watching TV. I remember your mom there. It was just we were just sitting. I fell asleep and I woke up and I said, Drastic. That's it. That's the name. And he kind of just looked at me and you could see like, he was like, what? And then I said it again, Drastic. And then that's how it clicked. That's how we got the name. It was like a weird dream, and I just woke up with the name.
Drastic times, drastic.
It could have been
measures.
drastic changes. It could have been
could
drastic anything.
And then, I mean, to be in New York and to drive anything like that out there on those streets, yeah, it defines that. I'm sure after you came up with that name, you looked it up in the dictionary, and it probably defined you guys perfect in that scenery out there in New York.
Correct.
And the design of the plaque, who came up with that?
That's my handwriting.
That's you.
Yeah. All I did was I took a paintbrush. I'm also, graffiti writer and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would just experiment with the lettering, but it's just literally my handwriting, but with taking brushes with heavy ink and laying it down and drawing it. Must have did what, 15 of those?
Yeah.
And I'm just like laying it there. And then I remember taking it to one of the shows and meeting with the guys and laying it all out. We laid it all on the floor and everybody's just looking at us, oh, this is the one, and that's when they pointed to like, oh, that's the one. And now we had our lettering. And now once we had the lettering, designing the plaque part was easier.
You got to tell them where we got the plaque from.
You could get into that, man. With the
As everybody did, Lowrider Magazine was the Bible. You got all your resources from Lowrider Magazine. We went through DFW's,
DRF,
DRF,
Doug.
Plaque Works, right?
Yep.
And that's where we got our plaques. We ordered 6 plaques. And I remember, for me, I was at work. Marv came to my job with my plaque.
And it looks like that now.
It was chrome.
Are they laser cut back then, or no? They're foundry,
No.
huh?
Foundry.
Wow.
Even now.
'Cause that's a lot of artwork for a foundry right there. Yep.
Even now, all our plaques are still poured and mixed. Marquette Plaque Works took over DRF.
Uh-huh.
And actually, when he took it over, I had left a message to Doug when he retired, and I wanted our original wood molds.
Yeah.
And Mark heard the message because he took over the business. I didn't know he took over the business. And he contacted me and he promised, he's like, listen, I'll use the same mold and I'll still make it exactly how you want it. Because we were really put in a position of like, these are our original plaques. We're never going to have them again. We actually made laser plaques, like maybe like 3 or 4 of them. And then when we got the word that Mark could do it, we still stay with our brick plaques.
Who has a mold today?
Mark still
Yeah,
does
I
it.
would bring the mold home and then go back because I get some phone calls.
Actually, I
sometimes
just spoke.
of people trying to make plaques, and they're going to make one just like yours. They can make it. They'll pay for the mold just to have it hanging up, where by their TV or in their car or their van, right? Yeah,
I spoke to Mark before we flew out here.
that's good, man.
We might if time is there, we might go check them out. But yeah, we'll be placing some orders with them again.
You guys went blue and gold.
Yeah.
That was your choice.
Yeah, I was a big Michigan fan.
Okay.
It was nothing to do with any other clubs or anything. Back in those days, I had my Michigan hat.
Yeah.
I traded up. You know what I mean? The Yankees now.
Gotta love the Yankee hats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the Michigan colors that we ended up going with. We went with multiple colors at the beginning.
You guys had a lot of plans to get to a certain level from what you had seen out there. And then you just can't go down the street or a couple miles and find a chrome shop,
No.
find a,
No.
I guess you do have body shops, but you can't make, custom modifications, door handles, shaving. You got to go around and find people to do that on trucks and all that.
You got to find them.
Did you guys originally think that, man, we're going to have to go all the way across the country to get this work done? Or how do we do that? And right off the traveling, the expense on traveling, it's already going to be negative.
We paid a lot in shipping
Yeah.
when it comes to chroming.
We still do.
Yeah, we still do that. The best chrome is out here.
I still use a gentleman by the name of JD. He does my chroming. I think the hardest thing for us was finding great customer service at a timely fashion and not getting burned, because we've all been burned from companies on the West Coast.
Yeah, and back then too, you didn't have the internet. You couldn't find
Oh, yeah. It was
know,
really different.
and luckily we built some connections onto the West Coast that we could reach out to people that we knew that if they dealt with this person, now we could deal with it, or they would be the middleman. Many a times I sent a lot of chrome and gold plated stuff to the Diablos. They
Yeah.
don't do plating, but they'd walk it over to what, golden plating back then, wherever it was in Anaheim, and they would plate it. They would make sure everything's packed up right and ship it back to us. But it was just finding the right people. When it comes to modifications, shops out there, they don't you kind of have to walk them through what you want. They because they don't understand what you mean by shaving the handles or why would you do
All that
that.
vocabulary, right? A dump is a valve.
We
A
didn't know.
tank. What's a tank? Yeah, it's your reservoir for your fluid.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that stuff we had to go through.
The
And
first
then as you get older and wiser, you find out, oh, there's real names for all of these
the, f-
artifacts that go into a trunk
the first
for
time
hydraulics, right?
when Marvin got the hydraulics and his Thunderbird, we were like a kid on Christmas.
It was
He's
amazing.
driving, I'm in the passenger seat, smile from ear to ear. We're going down the boulevard, hitting side to side. Now,
And
early
this boulevard is where? What's the
Jamaica
name of it?
Avenue. That was
Jamaica
Jamaica
Avenue?
Avenue. we
Jamaica
were at.
Avenue in
In New
Queens.
York, where more or less is that at?
It was Queens.
In Queens, near JFK Airport. How about that?
Okay. Okay.
So if you know JFK Airport, that's Queens. And we took it down the boulevard doing side to side. Early 90s, hydraulics and lowriders were not common. It was unseen.
Yeah.
So everyone was stopped in their tracks.
Yeah.
We probably wasted off like 2 tanks of gas just going up and all over New York City, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn. And we did it all in one day.
We couldn't wait to just plan the next place we're gonna go, where we gotta hit. What's the next cruise spot?
So if that attraction and attention you're getting, it's there, then it's starting to grow now. It's starting to multiply more. Everybody's starting to get into it a lot more. So did everything, did all of a sudden pop up factories? We do this, we do that. No, it
No,
didn't.
no, because you didn't have the right people. You had to have the right people to build. Thank God we had Astrovan John.
Yeah.
He was one of our original members. He's the one that's the first person we saw with hydraulics. On the back of, he had the rear of his Astrovan had hydraulics at an Englishtown show, and he's the one that started us doing hydros. He was doing the hydraulics. He's the one that did my car, and people would see it, but where were they gonna go? It wasn't a shop. You know, John had a little apartment. He would put together a whole pump setup and everything, and then he would come to my house, you know, my parents' house, and do the install there. It wasn't like you could just go, hey, yeah, I seen some guy. I don't know what he had, but I want to get it installed. No, no shop was doing that. There wasn't kits back then. You had to make everything. You know, we had to find bed frames. Oh yeah, they got angle iron. Yo, if you see bed frames, make sure you pick it up. You know, things like that. Just so people don't know that now, because you could just order and buy things. You could get things pre-cut, laser cut. But when you had to get a piece of metal and just kind of make your own donuts and cut things out, you weren't finding shops that could do that. You know?
So you have Lowrider magazine back then, and there's other magazines too, Cuvo and the rest of them that
Yeah.
came along.
Yeah, Street
also.
Customs and
You also had Lay It Low. But eventually magazines and, you know, on the internet, you guys got out there and started traveling, and you started going to shows. And every time you came, it wasn't just, we're just going to go to the show, hotel, eat, get on a plane and go back. You obviously came out to see the cars. I mean, that's a great reaction, but you wanted to meet the people behind them so they
Correct.
could tell you the stories and the histories.
Correct.
Sometimes a magazine wasn't enough. And you get to, when you talk to the real people and behind it and what they went through, it's the best education.
it is.
And I know every time that, especially when you came out being, I mean, you guys are well loved out here. Everybody knows you guys, with all the competition and the greed and the hate with each other. You guys are well, like, you don't have, except for Dodger fans, those are your only enemies. But you guys are well, everybody that's ran into you guys sincere, they're humble, they're the best. You could be in everybody's club out here. You guys are that much liked. So you did just not come out to see the car. I know you take pictures. You could have worked for the magazine back then, but at the end of the day, what you wanted to capture is not so much the image of that car. You wanted to get the image of the person behind it,
Correct.
to learn what they go through and what it is, so you can go back home, not only do it for yourself, your club, and everybody that's going to follow you guys. So for 30 years, you guys have a following, not just here, over there too.
I will say, when I started, I guess everyone considered me a photographer. I considered myself a guy for camera. Marvin gave me his first digital camera just to walk around, take pictures. I took that and I ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking pictures at all the club meetings, the events,
Right.
and I started coming to shows, and I would take 2,000, 3,000 pictures. And because of a few guys, like I consider these guys my mentors, like rest in peace, Jay Bueno, Beto, Two Tons,
Yeah.
and the guys from Lowrider Scene, Bro and Serge, they said, Bean, listen, you could take pictures from the magazine. Then I realized, oh, I guess I am sort of a photographer. But one thing I always concentrated on was taking pictures of the people. Because now everybody want to race to the show, have that number one picture of the car. But I wanted to go to the essence and capture the people working on the cars, the kids working on the bikes, people cleaning, the family. And I think that's what set me apart. And I would post all these pictures on Lay It Low. And that's where I think everybody remembered me from. And Marvin and I, we would come to California at least 3 times a year. And we were humble. We came out here to learn the
Yeah.
culture and the lifestyle.
Anybody that has a cell phone now is a photographer. So back then when we didn't have that, and you're out there taking pictures, if you're going on Lay It Low, no matter what you read on there was shocking to me sometimes that people came out. But now look at social media. But I mean, to put those pictures out there, there weren't enough photographers yet.
Mm.
Anybody could be a photographer. You need to know what you're shooting. It's an art, and you're going to make artistry out of something that looks beautiful, and you have to capture it. You helped do that by putting out these pictures. So did the magazine and all the other magazines. And that's how you have a big piece of low riding and how it grew.
Yeah,
But
You know that though, right?
I do.
before the digital age,
Yeah.
we used to go to shows, and we'd take film. People may not know about film nowadays, but we used to do film photography, take pictures. We take so many pictures. Time to develop. We'd come back from a show, say a West Coast show, whatever it was, or we'd be out here for 3 or 4 days, so we'd hit multiple shows. Say we have 24 rolls of film. Me and him would have to split, do double prints of everything. We've paid thousands of dollars
Oh, it was expensive.
in just developing film,
Yeah.
and just this blurry picture. But we spend it and we do it over and over and over again. We have albums and albums of photos that were never got to digitize from the 90s, which is amazing to see now. You know, because like you said, everybody's a photographer now. Everybody has a camera, phone, and you get everything. But back then,
It was film.
yeah, it was film, and the amount of money we spent was crazy, just on film. I always thought that was crazy. Now that I think back at it, you know.
I remember this time when I first joined Lowrider, I had 5 photographers, 5 of them at that time. And they were assigned to get everything kind of local. You have to watch your expenses if you go out of town. If it was a major show, all right, one of you would go or 2, just depending,
Yeah.
because budgets, we had the selling of magazines, blah, 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 to make it all worth it. And some of these guys would get invited to the show and they would pick up their hotel, right? Whatever. But I remember always gathering and going by the cubicles, cul-de-sacs of them, and I walk into different conversations, and I know that you were always you two, you guys were always brought up. They always had you guys in conversations, and it was like it was a certain event, and you were there, and they were looking at that, and they were gaining knowledge from that too. So you were like our freelancer. We just never really hired you, but they all loved you, and everything you did kind of set the tone for them on what they needed. And we have to ask Phil Gordon, or let's go here and get this guy to do it because look what's happening out there. And they would show all your pictures.
One thing, Marvin and I, we traveled. And I think that's what really kicked it off for us. If there was a show within 12 hours, we drove. We drove 12 hours, see the show, and drive right back. And that's what the club started doing. We started telling the guys in the club, there's a show in Indianapolis. It's 10 hours. Let's go. We would drive, see the show, and drive right back
Oh
home.
man, that was incredible. Those shows.
We
Yeah.
were, as
Yeah.
as in our 20s, we were reckless.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Indy, Chicago.
We didn't care. We would drive to North.
Chicago too. You know what? Chicago hasn't changed.
Yeah.
We drove
If
to
you
North
go there
Carolina.
now, right now, it doesn't. There's no difference without recognition or a magazine or the throwing a show there. Those people just turned it on. They never turned it off. I
Yeah.
mean, God, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I miss the indie show though,
Yeah.
because it was my
Indianapolis
first
is awesome.
time. You know, white girls, blonde hair, blue eyes, green eyes. They're not into all of that. And you go into Indianapolis, it looked like East LA 1972. All the girls were on their knees, all blonde hair, and they were all arm rolling and cleaning white walls. The whole place was just white on top of white.
Yep.
And then I just go, okay, like it just got switched out. And I could talk about white people, I'm half there. And it was incredible. And the cars, and they were everywhere, and there were people everywhere, and everybody was into it. And that there are a few things in my life that changed me to look at things to say, you know what, this is never gonna go away. When I saw that, oh, those were great shows, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did everybody go? Even Dallas was like, oh man, they call Texas big Texas when Dallas was alive and going. There was nothing like that. Now you go today and it's kind of split up here or there, but it's nothing compared to the way, you know, it used to be back in those
Yeah.
days. So you guys you were an influence and you saw other influences coming from there. And 30 something years later, how many members are in the club now?
We're 12.
Yeah.
12 members.
But you kind of like stayed that pretty
We-
much.
We've been up to maybe like 15 or 16. We've been as low as 8.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been there. Even our ex-members, we're all still very cool. They'll
Everybody
still
keeps
stop
in
by.
touch,
Yeah. They'll come
Anniversaries
by
and all that.
at our barbecues. They'll still come and we all everybody catches up. You know, there really hasn't been like bad feelings and things. It's sometimes people gets pulled different directions, marriage, families, mortgages, kids. You know, sometimes you can't put that
There's a
100.
lot out there still, huh?
Yeah, you can't go to
Painters can't finish your car.
you know, not everybody's.
I remember his name used to be Marvin, and now you changed it to Marvelous. Now that your car's painted.
I
But yeah, I get that, you know, and after
Yeah.
a little while, and nobody wants to be around their club when their cars aren't finished.
Or
They
being
just feel
built and
guilty.
stuff.
Yeah, and I'll come back when my car's done, and
Exactly.
then they lose inspiration. They never come back.
No, well, you know what? One of our great members, Serge, he did. I remember him leaving, saying, "Listen, man, I'm getting a house in Pennsylvania, moving the family out there. I'll be back." And 7 years later, lo and behold, Serge is ready to get back him in 150%. He had his family behind him, his wife, and he's building. And actually, that's how we got some of our members that came from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. You know, it's through Surge, and to this day they're here.
no chapters.
Yeah, we don't do chat.
How far is Pennsylvania, Philadelphia? How far? are you guys?
Depending on what part of, like, say from Queens, maybe like 3 hours, maybe.
2.5, 3, and
You know?
they travel to every meeting,
2.5, 3, like from LA to Bakersfield. Not bad.
and they travel.
Yeah.
What's the culture like out there in New York with low riding? How many other car clubs besides Drastic are out there?
We're the oldest, and
Yeah.
there's other clubs. I would say maybe within the tri-state, 20,
Really?
maybe 20 clubs. Some clubs are only 2 guys.
That's all right.
Some clubs are, you know, 10, 15 guys. You know, some are street clubs. You could tell some other clubs are trying to build to a higher level, but everybody starts off in the street. But yeah, some good amount of clubs.
Now, if we're talking the time period of the 90s,
Oh yeah, that's
the
different.
handful to
Yeah.
early 2000s, it started to grow. Now, I think the lowrider community has become, the word is unity. We kind of unified where, hey, if somebody's having a cruise, they'll invite all the other clubs just to come and just hang out.
Oh, that's good.
So
Yeah.
we're not segregated.
Right.
You know?
Originally, it wasn't like that.
There's no alliances or anything like that out there?
Well, there's an East Coast Council meeting that's put on every year by Rudy
Yeah.
from Lowrider Connection. And he puts it out where all the clubs from the East Coast, you're open invite to come down. And then it's usually at a restaurant or something. And everybody gets to stand up and say, oh, you know, I'm going to have an event on, our club is doing a barbecue on this date. And you kind of like schedule down. And everybody gets to meet each other or meet new clubs. They get to introduce themselves. Older clubs get to talk about whatever the topic may be. And I think that's really cool.
When you guys get older and wiser about the lowriding culture, you could have a painter across the street. It doesn't mean you're going to get your car done. Your chrome, they're going to miss your parts. Upholstery, it's the whole gamut you can run through. You've heard all the paint jail. You've heard there's chrome jail. There's all kinds of jails now. To build a lowrider, you need a good bail bondsman. It's harder for you guys out that way. So what I want to get to is you have to apply yourself, at least living out that far. At the end of the day, if you have a little bit of patience, you got to take up one of these trades.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's building out of wood an interior, a custom interior, or rebuilding motors, or you're going to build hydraulics, or you're going to do body and paint, Marvin.
That was
So how does that come?
that was the actually what separated us from many clubs. When we started, every member had some kind of skill or talent. We had our own body guys. We had PS doing hydros, John doing hydros. We had Super Chris doing body work, Polish Chris doing body work, paint, me, Chris. It was everybody could help do something. Meaning, we need audio, go to Oscar. You needed this, and we would trade off skills. It would make it cheaper for us to build our cars because now John's gonna do my hydro, Oscar's do my audio, Chris is gonna do my body and paint. And when it's their turn, I'm gonna hook them up the way they're hooking me up. And really no money sometimes would even go by because we know we'd help each other out. We were lucky enough to have amazing talent in the club that started us off. And that's how we were able to build our cars. And people would always wonder, like, we would literally make cars into convertibles for like just because we were like, you know what, this Vigor could be a convertible. Let's do it. Let's cut this Acura Integra and take the top off at a show. Finish the cut at a show to show everybody we cutting it. We would do so many mods, and had the skill and talent. Everybody played their part. Everybody played their part, and that was a big part of the club.
You got to tell them about Face Off.
That is cool though, about lowriding though. You know what I mean? Because you're a supervisor at a company, a trucking company that ships. You could be a manager at a retail store. And whether you went to college or you didn't, what do you do? What are you? What is your title? And then you can ask, well, what other experience do you have? Are you good at this? You can look down and go, well, I could do hydraulics. I used to be a plumber, so I understand I do hydraulics. Engine building, I build engines. I do suspension. I do hydraulics. I mean, every lowrider has to learn a trade because it's custom. They're old cars. They're going to break down. And on a Sunday in a suit, somebody's got to fix that. So you have to apply yourself to learn another job.
Yeah.
So if you're a manager or a cop, you're also something else. You're some type of a mechanic, whether you're a body guy now, or you're a painter. And that's the cool thing about all lowriders. They have other traits, other job qualities.
You want to tell them about Mike?
So going back to the 90s, as Marvel was mentioning, we didn't have a lot of resources. A lot of these guys we were doing stuff in the street because the guys lived in apartments. One of our members, he built a truck that kind of put us on the map. Like I said, one of our members had a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
He took it to Pat Burke in Kentucky that did a 4-link, put hydros. Another member, gentleman, we call him Face Off. He took a Chevy Blazer, put a Honda Accord front on. He did gull wing doors on. Power.
You saw it at Indy.
Yeah.
And he did this all before the kit. It was him and his brother, and he did 90% of the work outside in a 1-car garage. And from there, a lot of guys started picking up skills. And that's what really spearheaded the club. And like I said, we were reckless. We were cutting tops on, sports cars. We were, putting hydros on Jeep Wranglers, on Ford Explorers.
That would have been another good name for a club. Reckless.
Because we didn't have the traditional Impalas and the Thunderbirds and the Ford FTDs. As Marvin said, whatever we had, we turned into a lowrider. And that's what set us apart from at a lowrider show. We had mini trucks in our club slammed to the floor. So at the end of the show, we were hitting every category. every member was getting a trophy.
Classes. We had
Every
multiple
classes.
classes.
Body drop pickup truck, a Ford Explorer, a luxury vehicle, a sports car,
Alexis.
a Lexus, hydros. This was early 2000s.
So we go in with 20 cars, come out with 20 trophies. Because everybody's not, they're in different classes and they're dominating their own class. You know, we had guys that were building cars in the street. They were running extension cords out of their third floor building into the street, doing body work,
to weld.
sanding and welding or whatever.
Really.
You know, in imagine the
Well,
extension cord.
I know the seasons are different over
Yeah.
there. Summer's only so long. It's always kind of cold out that way, and the weather, snow, rain, everything. So lowrider seasons probably we get like 8 months, 9 months in Southern California,
Yeah.
but you probably have it knocked down to how many months? 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'd say 5.
About.
So it defeats you.
Yeah.
But
And
those
then
5
having to
you
work
want to
in the
ride.
street, you got to be in the garage with a heater on, right?
No, back then, man, no.
No.
And when you did have the heater, you got the bullet heater with that made you tear.
Yeah.
It would be so like toxic.
Kerosene.
Yeah, it would just like burn your eyes all the time. But that was your heat. You'd turn it on just to get a little heat and then keep working, you know? But what you were saying about skills and people learning, and you have to learn. One of our guys, Tage, he used to be a money man, meaning like he just pay. You do the body work, you do this, do that. After a while, he was like, you know, after you get burnt a couple times, you learn that, you know what, man, I'm gonna go take this welding class. I'm gonna do this class, do things without even telling guys, and then come back and be like, yeah, I took this class. Now I'm gonna do my own welding. Right now,
You get it when
Tage-
you want, right?
it's not even that, man. Tage has learned so much.
Uh-huh.
He's building his own cars. He's building frame up out of nothing, doing conversions that Ellis conversions that people can't do. You know, he's custom making his own brackets, he's making everything run his way. But he took time and he learned all this on his own. And now he's a key asset to the club. You know, before he was just someone that didn't know much about anything. Now he's putting together his own hydro setups. He's putting together his own wiring. He could help other guys be like, no, do it this way. Or let's make our own wire harness. You know, it's amazing what guys would learn to get their vehicle done the right way after you stop trusting other people to do it and it's not coming out the right way.
Correct.
You know?
Well, we did, there's some things that we outsourced, like Chrome, California.
Yeah.
We got
Right.
our frames done by Brent from Pitbull Hydraulics. We want to wrap frames. So there
Yeah,
are things that we will outsource. But like for me, when it comes to paint, when I had my car ready for paint, there was no other person but
You got a Fleetwood Brougham d'Elegance Cadillac.
correct.
One of my favorites. What year is it?
84.
I mean, this guy went and painted it candy blue, teals, the whole thing.
Resin flake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
resin
And resin flake. Thanks to Big Ed out there, right?
Thanks to
They
Big.
get
But-
Sal.
You guys are for you to have a car like that now and go back to that first day and remember where you came from makes you sincere and unique to everybody, and that's why you got all that love, that you can always go back and appreciate where you came from. And you could not have it if you had to change everything all over again.
No.
Do it the same goddamn way.
Yeah.
Throughout the travels, while me and Marv were cruising up and down the street, we'll just be parked up and we just thinking about our future. And I said, listen, whenever I get my car, you're going to paint it. That's why we went hard on learning about different painters. We
Yeah.
met Danny D. We met Mario Gomez, Big Ed,
Benny Flores.
Benny
Sal
Flores,
Manzano,
Salmon.
So
So
many.
I told Marv, when it's my turn, initially when I got the car, I was just going to paint it blue. I just was going to go clean style. But because we know a lot of these painters, it was almost a waste not to utilize the teachings. So I told Marv, do whatever you want. And I wanted to build a car where if it was parked in LA, it would seem like it came from the 80s flaked out. I had a few influences, like Charles Clayton had a beautiful Cadillac back in the 80s. Sean Hodges, Us Versus Them, Crystal Blue Persuasion. There's a lot of,
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, way
Yeah.
back then too.
so
San
I had a
Diego.
lot of Cadillacs that was an influence. Sharkey with the orange one from Lifestyle.
Yep.
Those were my influences. building a Cadillac, a 90 style Cadillac now.
Oh, I had
It's,
James from the club here with his burgundy one that he's painted 5 times, and he at this time right now he's doing interior. He's gone back and forth with his moldings. It's just a mess, and this doesn't fit on right. That doesn't. It's a headache to the point where I've told him already. You know what? I've told him just sell the car because it's a nightmare. It's like it's got some hex on it. Just get rid of the car. Every time he comes forward, it's 5 steps back. They're hard to build. They're expensive.
I've been lucky. I've had my builder, guy by the name of Billy and Andrew, to help me put the car together. My Cadillac guru, Brian from Texas. I use Nate from Individuals.
Yeah,
Now, if I donate some blood, then I could afford Cadillac Mike,
right.
you know, give a kidney up. But building a Cadillac is like worse than building an Impala.
Yeah, it is. Been in there hand in hand with this guy, man, and I walk away and just like sell the car. God damn it, just get rid of it.
I didn't
And
understand.
he's
that.
almost there.
Yeah.
He's just about there, and still he runs into just the stereo. He had his audio done the other day, and he was in his garage. He comes out, and they're messing when the car starts. It's like you got some evil. I don't know. What
I didn't
one of his
understand the
exes or a
Cadillac world
ghost.
like that until I saw Bean build his car.
Yeah.
Till I seen when Billy would come down and what the wiring they were going through and getting all those little clips and everything perfect. It was just you couldn't find them. You had to find the right people. Impalas, at least there's so many catalogs. You know, so there's certain original parts that hey, it's hard to find, but you could find people like Brent. You know, that'll get you those parts. Cadillacs, man, it was just a whole nother world when I watched him build that car.
Do you kick yourself when you walk out where you live? You walk out and you see a car like that and said, "How did that get here?" Came a couple thousand miles just to be dropped off here. Does it surprise you sometimes because it's I mean, you're keeping up with the best of them out here. That car is beautiful.
I owe everything to this man on my left here. We're humble, but I trusted him. I said, "This is my partner in crime. We built the club together from day one. There's nobody else." And I entrusted him. This is like my brother.
Yeah, Bean just gave me a color. Said he
And
wanted blue.
blue, of course, now the joke is I don't want any more blue cars in the club. We got too
We
many.
have a lot of blue cars in the club.
So
Yeah.
that's, if you have a blue car, you're not getting into the club. But back to the car, I gave him full reign and I had full trust, and he created a beautiful work of art for me. It's not 100% complete. There's still issues. I still call guys. I'll still go on Instagram, Big Nate, Brian, Cadillac Mike. I call everybody because I would not build a Cadillac again.
Ever again, right? Yeah.
No, unless I get a four-door and I use all those parts, but it's
I know.
it's expensive.
How many people are you going to find building lowriders now, especially on the East Coast, that's going to want a classic 70s resin paint job? You're not going to find that many because to them it's just big flake. They may not understand the depth of it and the amount of work that it takes to get to it. And Bean understands it, right? I understand it. How many people are going to come that's going to want that? Bean gave me an opportunity, and that was just the way to go. You know, because nowadays everybody's going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to say shortcuts, but yeah, I will say shortcuts. They're going to just throw big flakes down. They're going to bury it. They're going to try to make it look like it's resin. And it's not a true resin. It doesn't have the depth, you know? And I learned all this stuff from Sal, Big Ed, Benny Flores. And to let it go to waste is kind of crazy. I was lucky enough to have a New York cheat code, meaning I was able to come to the West Coast. Because I'm from New York, I'm not a threat to any of these painters. So they opened up to me. They would tell me all kinds of secrets that they wouldn't tell somebody else because that person in their neighborhood
You
would
don't
take
put
their
a shop
business.
across the street. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm in New York. I'm no threat. When I ask questions, they open up and tell me everything. They'll tell me from
You think that's what it's, but they know you're trying and you're honest. And look, you came a couple thousand miles away.
Well,
To me, you being a painter now, the old materials, the newer materials today, you don't fade, they last longer, they do this for you, they
Yeah.
do that for you. But to me, it's all cheating now. It's a lot easier to paint a car. Gone are
It
the
is.
resin days now. Nobody wants to try that. Gone are the lacquers and the candies and painting on pearl white. It's all gone. Being a graffiti artist, you're an artist, so then you jump into custom painting.
Yeah.
We all know probably the reasons why, but you are an artist born with a talent. So what made you, who influenced you to come out and start painting like that? Any special painters out there?
Well, I mean, very first was the Diablos,
Yeah.
Mario Senior,
Mhm.
rest in peace. Mario Junior, Albert. Those are my first contacts for understanding candy and explaining to me about transparency and what your base coat does to your top coat. And just going through the magazine, like I said, Big Ed, Sal Manzano, Benny Flores, Mario Gomez, Danny D. You go down the line of all these amazing painters, and you get to, if you're sincere, and I'm always going to be a student. I'm always going to want to learn more and learn different techniques and understand why someone did this and why they did that and what's the difference, or why did you see this color? Why did you not? You know, I've just learned so many from different people and painters. It's amazing what they told me and taught me, you know.
And all of these famous painters, now social media has a lot more. Back then,
And,
Mario Gomez, Walt, you can go way back,
oh
Carter
yeah,
Crow
Bill Carter,
Paints,
yeah.
and Larry Watson.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys worked at those shops pushing a broom with their ears and their eyes wide open
Yeah.
so they can learn. Grab a technique from one of them or two, use it, go sweep shop over here, pick up or put down some masking tape, learn a little bit there. And then finally, you know what? I think I've learned enough now that I'm going to go on my own. Trial and error. You can't shoot a straight candy until you blotch it.
Yeah.
They don't come out straight right from the beginning. They do, you're in trouble. But you learn techniques from everybody. And today, we only had a magazine back then or a car show.
Yeah.
Now there's a million car shows. And even though there's no magazines, we've seen it all. So you can pick and choose what styles and what equipment, what brands of paint you want to use. I've
Yeah.
seen you at paint bashes mixing up with all of those guys.
Yeah.
But it is good, though. I know that Mario was a guy that wanted to give, if he saw that you were sincere, he probably saw himself as a young kid. And then he came back and just said, you know what? I'm going to teach this guy. I'm going to give him all my shortcuts. Whereas Walt, he tested you. He didn't really want to give away too much at all. And I don't know what his reason was. Some people did come around him and didn't appreciate or respect him enough that he didn't want to give out, and they took and they were doing his style and he thought they were taking away from him. But I understand that goes through all trades, because somebody will open up a shop across the street from you,
Yeah. No,
lower their
it's
price a
true.
little bit, and they got that work.
Well, from like Danny Bugs, all these guys, from the Paint Bash and just the opening, that was that whole clique and crew, Pistolero, Loki, there's so many of us that we would open up to each other. I could ask Danny like, oh, how did this happen? He's like, oh, it was a Murano Pearl. Here's a jar, and from the 70s, he's giving me certain things that try it out, try this as a base, try this as a pebble base, do this instead, turn your pressure down, don't do that. you know Bugs would tell me about, like, butterscotch colors and mixing it and making it. Those are all things that you have to have the knowledge to do it. It isn't just you could go to a paint store, let me get butterscotch. It doesn't work out like that.
Carter Pro Paints. Bill Carter one time told me, I go, hey, I heard you're selling it. You'll mix it in a couple gallons, 5-gallon can. You'll make the butterscotch, because he originally, him or Larry cites somebody. Mario, I don't know. I heard all the different stories, but it was Bill's color, and it was his favorite color. And I asked him, I go, I heard that you're selling it for $500, and it already comes already mixed, ready to go.
He wouldn't tell
He
anybody.
goes, nah, Joe. He goes, that's true. I go, okay. So you just make it up, I'm kind of like interested. And he goes, no, there's no true butterscotch. If I'm shooting a butterscotch, have a couple beers, I walk around, grab some lunch, come back and add another couple coats, and I look at it, I run around the car. Every car looks different. Their shape looks different. The light hits it differently. And you look at it and you start to think, you know what? I'm going to try some tangerine now. Or I'm going to go and try this. He goes, as you go through the whole car, the whole process, until you're finished with it, you're going to change colors and add to it. there's no just one butterscotch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's probably about 15 out of them out there that you can do, and they all look different, but they're known as butterscotch.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could buy from me, but I mean, if I was spraying the car, you know, whatever the car takes, you know, that's what I'm gonna spray it out to be. That's what's gonna be my mix.
Yeah.
Those guys are legends, man, and that's what I try to preach every day. And I'm glad you feel the same way. I mean, through social media and all the painters today, they get all this acknowledgement and everything. But go back,
Yeah.
Larry Watson, they're just doing the same thing that he did back then.
My hats are always off to the older painters, man, because they're the ones that really brought that creativity, who had the eye for color, and just, you know, their vision was amazing. Because now we could look back and use those as templates for what we're doing, right? We may be changing it to different shapes of cars, but we could still see the certain color blends. You could look at those race cars back then, or, you know, before they started doing into lowriders, drag strip cars, and taking colors and moving it along, and you could see how those colors are all still basically the same. You know, it's just different paints and techniques now.
Yeah.
But you got to give your hats to the guys that really put it down.
We never,
True painter right there.
yeah, we never got a chance to meet Doc.
Yes,
You know,
he's a big one to me.
that was a big one for us that we wanted to meet. And from Doc's style of paint, you know, we see guys like Maurice, Sick from Texas, Coast One. They have that similar Doc style pattern. So when Marv and I will sit down and talk about paint and talk about if we had to do a car, which style would we go with? Would we go with like a Danny D, Mario Gomez style, or would we go with a Doc style? You know, it's so many variables. It's endless.
The paint styles are different. You could say there's a up north Cali style, there's a down south style, there's a Texas style.
Yeah, who's to say that if you go up there into New Mexico and see a style paint job there, that's not the right style compared to one that's out here in San Diego. It's everybody gets a chance to express themselves.
Yeah.
Not only they look good low, but what other car can you go pickup truck, a brand new Ferrari? You can't express your inner talents unless it's a lowrider. We just got to stay in the line sometimes,
Yeah.
not color outside of it. But I think that if you take a little bit from everybody, you come up with your own blend and your own graphic patterns, and you're on your way. And you got to, it's fun because now we all got to put our thinking caps on and think, how are we going to blow away that paint job? What can you do? And I'm sure it's going to be done, and it's going to continue. And as long as that does, there'll always be lowride, especially in New York. Other than that, what do you guys feel about the lowriding culture and where it's gone the last 30, 40 years that you guys have been involved in it?
I'll let Marv start with that.
Well, I just came back last week or the week before from Washington D.C. to see a lowrider exhibit in the Smithsonian,
Okay.
and the feeling when you walk in there as a lowrider, the pride you have to see at the Smithsonian, you see El Rey and you see Gypsy Rose, and you see all these amazing photos and all these amazing quotes, and to see you know, I think there was a barbecue flyer from Lifestyle from like maybe 86 or something. I don't remember. It was just there. I took a picture of it. But to see all everything and where it was to where we are now. And I kind of look at Gypsy Rose as such a legend. And then to see El Rey as like a newer legend. It's such an amazing feeling, man, to see how lowriders have grown. You know, you could kind of stick your chest out more, you know, just to be like, yeah,
Oh yeah, it makes you feel
I'm
proud.
part of it, you know.
Oh yeah.
I do get a little disgruntled sometimes, or a little like pissy about guys that try to stereotype lowriders. To this day, it still happens, you know. And I'm not big with that, but the way we've grown as a lowrider culture, it's amazing, you know.
Well, I think I don't want the culture to stay stagnant because of social media. The younger generation, the 20-year-olds, they just think of Impalas, Cadillac, and Regals. I want the culture to broaden out Ford LTDs, Mercury Cougars, Thunderbirds, Buicks. And because for a 20-year-old to dump $100,000 into an Impala, that's impossible. But they could pick up a 76 LTD, or they could pick up a Mercury Cougar and start from there. But because of social media, they think they have to start with the Impala. And because of pricing, they'll never be able to afford it, and they're not going to enjoy it. When I bought my ADEX from Brent, Mr. Impala, like 15 years ago. I paid a certain price. Now ADEX has quadrupled. A 20-year-old will never be able to afford that. They're not going to be able to afford a $20,000 paint job with an Impala that they bought for 10 that needs a full restoration. But you could get an old lady that's selling her Lincoln 79 Lincoln somewhere in the Midwest, and that could be the startup car. I don't want the culture to just stay stagnant, just thinking
Exactly.
it's just
Stagnant's the word they use. That's our whole future right there.
so.
Or if I reverse it into the early 70s and middle 70s, nobody wanted a 62 rag. Hell no. I want a car with a rooftop on it. And if I put paint on it, it's a better design. 72 Caprices were replaced by the 76,
Yeah.
were replaced by the LTDs, replaced by the Cadillacs and the Lincolns.
Yeah.
And everybody was driving only that.
Yeah.
And then nostalgically, we came back and we started doing, everybody got in Impalas, and the Japanese came in, that market came in, and the value of these cars turned into Mecum Auction and
Yeah.
whoever else, and the value, and that was a business that took off. And it works.
It worked.
And now everybody knows a win-win. Yeah, I've got one. It costs this much. So you want to build a $150,000 Impala, you can strip that whole thing nut and bolt and throw it all over here, and every item is 150,000 when you add it all up.
For
Crazy.
a 15-year-old,
Yeah.
you can't do it.
No, they can't.
You got to start from young, but how do you do that? From the East Coast, you hear the stories from the West Coast. A lot of guys started because their uncle, had them wash the wheels. Marvin and I, we didn't have that. We didn't have the uncles. We didn't have the brothers or the older guys on the block with lowriders. We were the first generation
Yeah.
in New York. But the next generation coming up, everybody's on Instagram and social media. It's what they see on the boulevard, and 57s, 56, 55s. A 15-year-old can't afford that. A 20-year-old can't afford that.
It's all status quo. You can't get into status quo. You got to let about 20 years go by.
Yes, it's so social media is kind of ruined certain things in that aspect.
Oh, it
You know?
does. It has.
If they find a Buick or a Monza or a car from the 70s, I tell any new members that come into our car club, if you want another car, stick in the 70s. There's so many cars in the 70s that's untouched. Bring them back out, and you'll be able to start or create a new wave of vehicle.
Like the 67, 68 Caprices are making a comeback.
Yes.
You get a few of them out there.
Yeah.
That's all we have to do is just show somebody. Because at the end of the day, it's like you got to think out of the box.
Absolutely.
Totally. And that's what low riding's all about. Not just customizing, having something different. Every low rider is different.
Yeah.
How do we get a hold of you guys before we come and close of this show? How do we reach out to you guys? You guys are far away. We got to wait for you to come and visit.
You could come and visit during the World Series.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
I mean, we don't have that big of a social media presence. We are on Instagram, like Drastic Auto Club, on Instagram, Drastic Auto Club NY, and then Drastic NYC, Drastic Bean, all on IG. That's probably like social media wise the best way to get in touch with us. Any other way?
No, I just want to,
Right?
Joe, I just want to say thank you for inviting us down. Thank you to the Lord, our Savior, for keeping the club alive for 31 years, which is not an easy feat.
No, it isn't.
And I got to thank my president for holding it down. I ran the club for maybe about 2-3 months myself, and it wasn't an easy task. Marvin was out for a while, and I took over, and I'm known as the grumpy guy, and it wasn't easy trying to command a group of guys to follow your lead. So I thank Marvin for everything. We got to thank the wives, because you know if we
course.
don't, we're gonna get in trouble. So I got to
Of
thank
course. Yeah, the wives and the
family.
man, that backed us to do all this crazy stuff, you know?
When I get out there to Yankee Stadium for the World Series and I wear an LA Dodger hat, do I have to wear a drastic shirt, something there, so I don't get jumped? What are you guys doing out here though? Because I know, like always, you guys are going to make a lot of visits out there, right? This is a tour for you.
Yeah, we're only out here for 3 days, and we got a list of people that we're gonna visit. We wanna every area we go to, we make sure we hit up 4 or 5 different people or shops, and say some people we haven't met that we did business with, just want to say what's up, introduce ourselves. Other people are old friends of ours. We have dinner and catch up with whatever. It's we call it our West Coast tour. We always, when we try to come out here, it isn't just for a show. It's to actually come and meet some of these guys,
Visit with
man.
your other families.
Have to
Yeah.
Beautiful.
pay homage.
Yeah, definitely.
I may pass by Cadillac Mike and haggle on some Cadillac
Don't
parts. or
spend all
something.
your money yet.
Yeah. No,
We're just joking, Mike.
Yeah, but there's so many guys, man. So many guys, and we can't let everybody know that we're out here, because then they're like, "Why didn't you come see
Yeah.
us?"
Yeah.
And we
Those
gotta
feelings are gonna
gotta
get hurt.
limit it down to like
A lot
an
of
hour.
sensitive lowriders out there.
Yeah, you gotta limit it down to an hour and to the location that you're in. We're when we leave here, we have our map of like what's around here, and we're gonna try to hit all that today, and then we'll discuss what area of Cali we're gonna go tomorrow, and
Okay.
that's the best part though, catching up and talking to everybody.
and I just want to thank all our members. We're a bunch of crazy guys, but we're family.
It's an honor to have you guys here, man, because I know you got a waiting list out there, but I got you guys first. Man,
We
all I can
appreciate it,
say
Joe.
is, man, enjoy your tour out here. Enjoy your time. Get back safely, turn around, and come right back, man, because we miss you guys.
Thank
You
you.
guys are
Thank you,
good
Joe.
for the environment of lowriding and for its culture. You guys are good role models for all of that. So there you go. That comes an end to this show. It was a drastic one, wasn't it? Our visitors from New York. Yes, there are car clubs in New York. It's like you believe that there's no lowriders in Germany or where else. Here they are to represent New York. And now we all know, put that on your map in lowriding. There's over 30, 40 car clubs out there, and it's because of these individuals here. That's a beautiful plaque, man. Beautiful story, but I'm sure there's more. And before we get going and I close this show, you guys need to get together and put out a book. You need to put a book together
I have
about
thought about
what
that.
you've seen from, we're going to go with Jeeps slammed on the floor all the way to Fleetwood Bromes.
Sitting on 520s.
Yes, sir. There you go, everybody. Thanks for being here, you guys. Thank
Thank you,
you,
Joe.
everybody else, for going to New York for a little while with us. It was an interesting visit. Thank you once again, and we'll see you at the next show.